The other night, someone broke into my car. They stole everything, my sunglasses, my emergency medical kit in the back, my fucking lumbar pillow. They even left me a half-smoked cigarette butt in my cup holder to add insult to injury, except they didn't touch my CDs. Not a single disc. Thinking about it afterward, I landed on two possible explanations. One, this thief was some kind of music snob who took one look at my copy of Invisible Touch and thought, Jesus, an 80s Genesis fan, seriously? Or two, music ownership has become so obsolete it's not even worth stealing anymore. Because why steal something that's already free? So if a thief thinks that they're trash and the market says that they're obsolete, the question becomes, why the fuck do I still own CDs? But first, a quick disclaimer. I'm fully aware that this could become exactly the cliche that it sounds like. A nostalgic millennial making a video essay about physical media, telling you to get off your phone while you watch this on your phone. And I'm about to talk about rebelling against the algorithm and big tech while hoping you'll smash the like button and subscribe and hit the little bell while you're at it. Does that make me a hypocrite? Yes, it does. But as they say, let he who hath no digital sin be the first to drop a hate comment below. Anyway, asking why I still own CDs turned out to be a much bigger question than it looks, because the rabbit hole opens with something genuinely Orwellian. A tech company once reached into thousands of devices and deleted everyone's copy of a book. And that book was 1984. This is Chords and Discords.
Go into the CTEC theory.
Technology. Objectivity.
We are in a period of fantastic change.
Pure musical.
Fields of vibration of the music.
Enables those who have lost their vocal cords to speak.
I hear you now. Yes, loud and clear.
So before we get into it, we should define some terms. And for that, we are going to use this ancient artifact called a dictionary. Or we're going to Google it. And Google has a very relevant definition for the word ownership. It is the state or fact of legal possession and control over property. Possession and control. Let's hold on to that second word, right? Because with Spotify and streaming, we've all made our peace with renting. We know we're just borrowing access at the end of the day. But the real scam is the buy button. Because if you click buy on Apple or Amazon for an album, a movie, or a book, you still don't own a thing. You've bought yourself a non-transferable license. Ownership puts control in your hands. A license keeps it in someone else's, usually a corporation's. And corporations can change their minds. And sure, they don't have a lot of incentive to do so until they do. Let's start with the most defensible version. In 2009, Amazon remotely wiped copies of George Orwell's 1984 and Animal Farm off the Kindles of people who'd paid for them. Yes, the book about a totalitarian regime erasing history was erased by a tech giant. And to be fair, those copies came from a bootleg publisher who never had the rights, so Amazon was technically protecting the George Orwell estate here. But let's set the why aside, and it's the capability that should bother you. Because what this revealed is that they can kind of reach into your digital backpack and take something out anytime that they want. That's the version with an excuse.
Sorry, Shorty.
Here's one without. In 2023, PlayStation told users that it was pulling Discovery Plus content that they had already bought because of a licensing dispute. And listen, do I think that removing episodes of things like 1,000-Pound Sisters or Suddenly Amish is a net positive for humanity? Absolutely. But if someone took the physical copies off your shelf, we wouldn't call that a licensing dispute. We'd call it a burglary. And when a corporation does it, it takes a full-blown PR shitstorm before they go, oops, never mind, and thank you for your continued support.
Not enough for you, eh?
Now, when I was searching for an example that related to music, it made me realize something. This kind of control over access can run both ways. Because if something can get deleted, it can also be force-fed. In 2014, Apple proved that they could shove content in just as easily as they could yank it out, with a reported $100 million stunt that blew up in their corporate faces. And on one fateful morning, 500 million iTunes libraries, mine included, woke up as the unwilling hosts of U2's new album, Songs of Innocence. No one asked for it, no one clicked I consent, Apple just put it there, which honestly felt less like a gift and more like getting an unsolicited dick pic from Bono.
And it's been all over you. It's a beautiful day.
But picture the U2 thing in physical form. Imagine Apple had shipped 500 million CDs and left one on every doorstep. At least then you could have traded it in, you could have sold it on eBay, or used it as a coaster.
You bastard!
That disc would be worth something, but you can't resell a digital file. Which sounds like a punchline until you find out people took that exact question to court, and which way it goes depends entirely on whether that thing was made out of plastic. Since 1909, your right to resell the things that you buy has been protected by something called the first sale doctrine. In plain English, once I buy a copy, that specific copy is mine. I can sell it, I can lend it, gift it, or grill it, and more on that in a little bit, and I don't owe the copyright holder a cent. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking, right? Reselling music, reselling CDs, isn't that a little greedy? Isn't that taking money straight out of the artist's pocket? And if that's your instinct, congratulations. You're 100% in agreement with the major label executives of the 1990s. And with Garth Brooks, the best-selling artist of the entire decade who took one look at the used CD market in the 1990s and went on a crusade against his own listeners.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Because in the 90s, the path of the righteous record label was beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish listener and the tyranny of evil used record stores. And blessed were the executives who, in the name of charity and goodwill, and definitely not in violation of any antitrust law, struck down upon those record stores with great vengeance and furious anger by passively aggressively withholding ad money from anyone who dared to stock a used CD.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
And then the people spoke. Or at least one guy with a grill did. His name was Terry Currier, and he ran a record store in Portland called Music Millennium. So when on June 30th, 1993, Garth Brooks went on camera and said he didn't want his new album sold anywhere that carried used CDs, Currier threw a party. He took out a newspaper ad inviting the entire city of Portland to bring their Garth Brooks CDs, vinyl, VHS tapes, and posters down to the Music Millennium parking lot to barbecue them on a real grill. They grilled CDs on hamburger buns with lettuce, tomato, onion, and barbecue sauce, VHS tapes on hoagie rolls, and apparently Terry took a bite of every single one. Within weeks of this, all four major labels backed off. They denied any wrongdoing, naturally, and the FTC made it official by the end of the decade. Used CDs are going to survive, the first sale doctrine held, and it was a rare win for the little guy. But let's make one small change here, and keep the doctrine identical, but swap the disc for a digital file and watch what happens. In 2012, the label sued Redigi, an online marketplace trying to do the impossible: let you resell your used MP3s. The court ruled that you can't move a digital file without creating some kind of copy in the process. Translation here: the first sale doctrine does not apply to digital files. With a CD, I have rights, I have leverage, but with a digital file, I kind of have nothing. My library is legally worth exactly zero. And here's the thing about something that's already worth zero: you can't sell it while you're alive, and that means that you definitely can't leave it to anyone when you're dead. And okay, maybe all this talk about the monetary value of your music collection is kind of killing the vibe. You want to be left alone and listen to your favorite music in peace. Which brings us to our next point. In the streaming era, when you're listening to your music is also listening to you. We all know the old line, if the product's free, you're the product. And streaming found the upgrade. You pay full price and you are still the product. That means that every skip, every repeat, every playlist ad, every volume change is logged, analyzed, and sold. And because music is emotional, that data is a little bit more dangerous to share than just your Amazon wish list. Spotify knows what you feel, and sometimes they don't even bother trying to hide this. In 2016, Spotify ran a billboard in the UK that read this: "Dear 3,749 people who streamed It's the End of the World as We Know It the day of the Brexit vote. Hang in there." Now, on the surface, it's funny, haha, cute, relatable brand humor. But if you peel it back just one layer, a corporation just publicly bragged that it was reading the emotional state of the population by name, by number, and in real time during a political crisis. But don't worry, there's obviously no historical precedent of tech companies ever handing over user data to governments. None whatsoever.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
Look at what the billboard did to the song itself, though. End of the World is 3 minutes of apocalyptic dread, and it's trying to say something. Spotify clipped off the panic and it kept the punchline and sold it back to you as a little corporate hug. And the song just became ad copy. There's a name for that. The situationists called it recuperation. The system takes something with teeth and sells it back to you with the teeth essentially pulled. It's Che Guevara on a t-shirt.
Che Guevara! Yeah, of course, right.
Or it's, as Don Henley used to sing, a deadhead sticker on a Cadillac. And like I talked about in my last video where I ran Spotify through Marshall McLuhan's tetrad analysis, every form pushed to its extreme reverses into its opposite. If you push a highway to its limit, it actually stops being a road and becomes a parking lot. And you push rebellion to the limit of its visibility, and you make every act of dissent, measurable and taggable and sellable, it reverses the exact same way. It stops being rebellion and it becomes a product.
Hi, I'm Diana Christensen, a racist lackey of the imperialist ruling circles.
I'm Laureen Hobbs, a badass commie nigger. Sounds like the basis of a firm friendship.
The rebel becomes the obeyer. Obey becomes the t-shirt, and the end of the world becomes a hang in there. And again, sure, CDs are products too, right? But at least mine don't work for the government or snitch on me. Probably. So maybe none of this moves you. Maybe you like it. There's better targeted ads. There's a playlist that reads your mood. Where's the harm in that? Fine. Forget the privacy creep out for a second then, because there's a weirder problem underneath it. There's an algorithm that you train every single day so it can turn around and train you right back. Speaking of things getting pushed to their extremes, there are nearly 100,000 new songs uploaded to streaming every single day. And Spotify's catalog is now well over 100 million tracks, the vast majority of which never even crosses 1,000 plays in a year.
Better get a bucket, I'm gonna throw up.
At that scale, algorithms aren't evil so much as they're just necessary. Someone or something has to manage the hit-to-shit ratio. Spotify's recommendation engine is largely based on something called collaborative filtering. It looks at your data and it sees that you listen to Talking Heads. Then it looks at someone else's and sees that they also listen to Talking Heads, but they also listen to Radiohead. So it bets that because you both like Talking Heads, you'll like Radiohead, and it feeds you that. This is useful, but you have to ask the question of, well, who controls the algorithm? The algorithm doesn't work for you, it works for Spotify. Which is exactly what journalist Liz Pelly uncovered in her book Mood Machine. Digging through internal records of Spotify, she exposed a Spotify program with a name straight out of that Orwell novel that Amazon deleted off your Kindle. Perfect fit content. Here's how it works. Spotify leans on a small handful of production companies to crank out cheap stock music, released under hundreds of fake names, and Pelly actually found that there's like 20 songwriters behind more than 500 of these ghost artists, with thousands of tracks that are streamed millions of times. Then Spotify's own employees slot them onto the playlist you throw on when you're not really listening. It's the sleep, focused, chill, ambient, lo-fi jazz ones, the ones that you never really check who's actually playing. Why? Well, because that filler reportedly costs Spotify less than licensing the real thing, so every ghost stream pads the margin. It's the music equivalent of Walmart stocking its own generic chocolate bars so people buy fewer Snickers. To be fair, Spotify denies making fake artists, and technically it doesn't make them, it just commissions them. But follow the logic here. You can't stream 2 songs at once, unless you're a psychopath, the way that you would walk into a record store and buy 2 albums at once. So every time one of those ghost artists gets played, a real artist's music doesn't. So that's great for Spotify and its shareholders, but it's not so good for the real artists.
You've heard Beethoven before?
Yes! So you're keen on music? Yes!
My name is Julian. I'm an AI voice forced by chords and discords to read this ad, so that the host could keep his dignity. Feeling overwhelmed by how much garbage is out there these days? Terrifying, isn't it? In a world where the hit-to-shit ratio is about to get even worse thanks to AI like me, curation is the cure. You have been watching Chords and Discords, made by a human who actually gives a damn. Should you have found what you watched to be of value, there are a small number of actions available to you. A subscription, a like, and should the mood take you, a share for people who listen dangerously. Also, buy some merch, you bastards.
So how do you opt out of a machine that's built to feed you the cheapest possible song? Well, this is another big reason that I still own CDs, because limitation is the ultimate filter. You're limited by what the record store has in stock, by how much shelf space you've got in your home, by how much money you have in your wallet, and that limitation actually curates a library that holds only the things that you actually want there. And here's what I've also noticed about my own behavior. The fewer options I have, the more I pay attention to them. I really sit with the music that I choose. I try and get like every drop of value out of that album. So it changes what I listen to, but it also changes how I listen and for how long. And that turns out to be a whole separate problem, because when the average viral TikTok song is about 19 seconds long, and that's where most people now find music, the 19-second hook starts eating the whole song. Tracks themselves have shrunk by about a fifth across the 2010s, intros chopped to almost nothing, with the hook shoved up front before your thumb can even swipe. Here's the issue. Longer is better is the lazy version of this argument, because despite what your favorite long-form video essay or your Substack post claims about long-form content, a full album that you half hear in the background does absolutely nothing for you. With music, just like sex, runtime isn't the only problem here. And I think every woman watching this already knows the truth. The problem is the guy who's technically present and mentally 3 zip codes away. The cognitive scientist Marianne Wolf studies what happens in your brain when you skim read versus when you read deeply. Skim and your brain's in hunt mode. It's twitchy, scanning, chasing the next little dopamine hit. But sink into something long enough, like a real book from front to back, and you drop into a different gear. It's the part of you that runs empathy, reflection, and actual critical thinking. She calls this the contemplative dimension. Wolf is talking about reading, but I think the same machinery applies for music. If you put on an album from start to finish, you're actually exercising one of the rarest things you've got left, the ability to stay on one thing. A CD holds up to 80 minutes of music, so I think the format itself actually asks you for stamina. And even that tiny bit of friction, like getting up and swapping the disc versus a quick tap on your phone, is usually just enough friction to keep you in your seat. And that's the part that actually matters here, because deep listening is where music gets to actually work on you, where a record sits with you long enough to kind of change your mind and get under your skin and, possibly even radicalize you about something that actually deserves it. And that's the whole reason that art can be dangerous in the first place. But kind of needs you in the room long enough to land. So to bring it back to Marshall McLuhan one more time, the medium is the message, and streaming's message is, well, stay on the platform. Just never on any one song long enough for it to reach you. Because if nothing reaches you, then nothing moves you. And music that can't move you can't really threaten anything, which is exactly where we're headed next.
Surfing is the only life, the only way for me now. Surf with me. Bob, dip, 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 bob, dip, dip. I got up this morning, turned on my radio. I was checking out the surfing scene to see if I would go.
What we've been staring at this whole entire time are the gears of a system, but you should be getting the feeling that we're not in capitalism anymore, Toto. It's something much older. It's lords and serfs. They own the digital land, and we pay with data for the privilege of living on it. And there's even a clever name for it from a Marxist economist named Yanis Varoufakis: techno-feudalism. The only other people who ever seriously tried to fix digital ownership were the crypto bros.
There you go, bringing class into it again.
That's what it's all about. Only people would Please, good people, I am in haste.
When Marxist economists and libertarian crypto bros agree that digital ownership is broken, the shit is kind of getting serious, which leaves the question that this whole video has been walking toward. What happens when we stop owning music? And the answer is just psychology, because we value what we own. hand someone a coffee mug, tell them it's theirs, and 30 seconds later, they'll want double to give it back.
What?
It's a real experiment, and behavioral economists gave it a name. It's called the endowment effect. But look at the mug itself. It doesn't change. It's the same cup before and after we're told that it's ours. So the value isn't in the cup because we're the ones that assign it. And ownership is just the oldest trick in the book for getting us to assign it.
You son of a bitch. You no good damn.
So when music stops being something that you own and starts being something that's just simply there, like water streaming from a tap, we don't pay as much attention to it. And when music becomes less valuable, the way that musicians make a living off of it changes drastically. Now, the reality is that you can make a living off music these days, but you have to say yes.
いかがとはこのことで
Yes to Spotify and releasing on their schedule. Yes to social media companies and content creation strategies. Yes to YouTube's monetization policies. Yes to advertising funnels. Yes to brand deals. Yes to late night show appearances. Yes to the podcast circuit. Yes to AstroTurfed organic marketing campaigns. And yes to merchandise. But hey, at least you can own these chords and discords, shirts and stickers. It's yes to everything, which means you can never afford to say the one word every real artist eventually has to say: no. Because it's the nature of any new idea to go against whatever's already there. That's the counter and counterculture. And if I'm being honest, it's like maybe I only love CDs because nobody else seems to, and the guy that's into the thing that no one else is into is the most market-tested personality of the last 60 years. And maybe I'm also happy that CDs aren't cooler because that's exactly why that thief didn't steal them in the first place. And for the record, this is a great album, so fuck you. So no, like, go buy CDs is not the message here. The real answer to the question of why I still own CDs is because owning the thing made me pay attention. But I'll take the listening and leave the plastic any day, because if it's an attention problem that's wearing ownership's clothes and nobody's cracking the ownership part anyway, then I'd rather stop waiting for a better way to own music and go work on the half that I actually have control over, the attention part. And the great news is that one's always free. Trent Reznor once stood in front of an arena of Nine Inch Nails fans and told them to steal his own album rather than let his record label gouge them at $10 a copy. His exact quote was,
Steal and steal and steal some more and give it to all your friends and keep on stealing.
He'd rather be robbed by his own fans than let a corporation set the worth of his music. So don't let them set the worth of yours. Own it, rent it, stream it, steal it, because the music is the message. Just make sure that you're actually listening.
No.